Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Marc Gronich of jbiztechvalley.com and statewide news service. We have a very, very special guest with us, the sheriff himself of the Albany County. I thought he may have a cowboy hat. He come the sheriff.
Here come the sheriff.
Craig Apple. Well, in any case, welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you for having me.
The first thing I guess maybe I'm a regular citizen. I mean, I'm educated, but like the sheriff, what is the position of sheriffs in the county? I mean, I don't know, and I think maybe most of our viewers probably wouldn't know either what the job is.
A lot of people they think the sheriff is just the jail, but actually in Albany County, we've got a very large agency, and what I always tell people is a very diversified agency, not by virtue of the demographic of people that work in it, but by virtue of we're probably the only sheriff's office in the state that has a large corrections division. We run the county jail, which houses up to 1,000
Every county has a jail, doesn't it?
Just about, yeah. It's actually a law that every county maintains a correctional facility.
Right.
And we have a very large one, unfortunately.
How
it's
much?
Not really good. We house 1,043 in Albany County jail.
Unfortunately? I mean, because there's so much crime?
I say unfortunately because I think for a county with a population of roughly 304,000, to have a county jail that'll hold 1,043, that's really, I don't think, a selling point to the area, And I always say that I like vacancies. I like having our vacancy light on.
Is there vacancies there? I mean, is it always full?
No, it's not always full. We run a population of roughly 830 as of this morning, give or take 20 to 30 a day. It fluctuates. It could fluctuate 50 a day.
And then how many of those 830 come from out of the area that you get, that other counties that pay you?
Right now, I have about 168 boarders.
Okay.
So that drops the county population of the county jail down to a little over 500 or so.
Okay.
So,
mainly it's a holding pen. I mean, that's who's kind of people are in there.
We, as a county correctional facility, we take, the initial phase, the initial arrest. All right, you'll get sentenced to the county or forced to go to the county jail with it once I have a commitment. You'll come to us now, depending on the seriousness of the charge. If you get convicted of a felony and face more than a year, you could go to a state penitentiary. Up to a year, I can house you. Sometimes we go a little over, depending on the situation of the crime in the case.
You were going to talk about other things that the sheriff's office
does.
Well,
our correction division is one of our largest. We have around 400 employees up there alone, and as I said, we house about 1,043, and our budget up there is a little over $40 million. We also run the county 911 system. So when you dial 911, no matter where you are in the county, for a split second, it's going to go through Voorheesville, which is actually the nucleus of Albany County. That's the middle of the county. Everybody thinks it's out in the boondocks, but it's actually the middle of the county. So we answer and administer the 911 system. We also have a very large advanced life support system with paramedics and EMTs that we contract with towns and villages for, and we run ambulances. So we've got EMS, we've got dispatch, we've got corrections. We also maintain the fire court and administer the fire coordinator's office.
Now you have a connection with the probation department too.
We actually don't have a connection there with probation. We had several conversations with the county exec's office, but there's actually some antiquated laws out there that kind of prohibit us from administering probation.
But there are people who are on probation who serve community service through the sheriff's department.
Yes. That program has kind of dwindled. It was our work alternative service, and I'm not a big fan of that program either because it doesn't give us any teeth to enforce that. What happens are people will get sentenced to work alternative, and they'll show up when they feel like showing up. They'll show up and have to do, let's say, a sentence of 20 community service hours. It may take 1.5 to 2 years to do that. And to me, that's not running an efficient program.
And also, I would like to ask, like an overlap. Now, we're in Albany here, but that in Delmar, Bethlehem, and then sometimes you see Albany County EMS or even the sheriff, police come in, and they're coming by, and I said, well, Delmar, we have our own police department. We have.
Right.
So, I never asked, but since you're here, I'm going to ask, what the overlap is.
The town of Bethlehem contracts with us to provide EMTs and paramedics to the town, as well as a number of other towns. So we have a substantial contract with the town of Bethlehem. So that's why you see our EMS vehicles in there. As far as police services, you shouldn't see us there that much. There's really no
Not
need
too
to.
much, yeah,
If
there really
if they get called to assist or to back up, or we're just passing through, whatever, or maybe on a special detail, but we try not to go in and police the areas that already have sustaining police departments. There's really no need for that overlap.
No, you, and the hill towns, for example, rely heavily on.
Correct, and that's our
the
fifth.
sheriff.
That's our fifth division, is the law enforcement division, which primarily functions in the hill towns. Our investigators go countywide, but primarily they're in
And how many employees are under your belt?
right around 700.
That's
Yeah.
all.
And do you need more?
You know what? You can always use more. You can always
Can
find
you?
a reason to have more. But I think that
I mean, you would think
I
with high technology, you'd have.
yeah, I think we're adequately staffed. I truly
Yeah.
do. We try to augment other agencies and other departments. We also maintain the emergency management for the county, which has become, it's quite a task now, because in light of 2000, what happened back in 2001,
Yeah.
a lot of laws have changed. There's a lot of mandates now, and it's quite a task.
Let me ask you, do you always wear a bulletproof vest, or is it only under certain circumstances? Or?
Unfortunately, I very rarely wear one. I very rarely wear a uniform, maybe once or twice a week. I'm in my office most of the time or attending meetings, so I'm usually in a suit and tie. But most people, if I'm not in uniform, most people don't know who I am anyway, so I don't really worry about it.
Do you, the weapons that are being used now as opposed to what's out there from the criminals, do you feel you're keeping up with that your
Absolutely.
weapons are better than their weapons? Or, because you talk about assault weapons and you talk about other things. What sort of weapons I know there's these Glocks and all that.
Yeah,
What sort of weapons does the sheriff's
Our department is kind of split between 45s and 40s, depending on where they
Caliber.
are. Caliber handguns.
Handguns.
We also we have patrol rifles, which are 223s, AR-15s, M4s.
But you don't have any assault weapons?
Well, those actually are assault
the rifles?
AR-15s and M4s are assault weapons. We have 308s for our snipers. We have shotguns as well, which when I first come on, it was you had a handgun and a shotgun and see you later. Which, there's nothing wrong with a shotgun. There's no more intimidating sound in law enforcement than somebody racking it around in that shotgun, and it quiets a place very quickly. But I think we're very adequately staffed and armed, and you're always looking to stay one step ahead of the bad guys. And I think that we've done a very good job, and the county legislature has supported us with that.
So when you look at the way law enforcement handled things in, let's say, the 70s or 80s, and you just see them go out there with, just this little gun that they might have, do you?
Things are much different. I came on in the 80s, and we were issued a revolver and a shotgun and a wooden baton. And now we slowly evolved. The wooden batons kind of went by the wayside, and we were issued what was called the PR-24, and that's kind of gone by the wayside. It was a fancy baton. It was a baton with another piece on it, and you could spin it and twirl it, and you've seen it all on TV. And then it kind of went to collapsible metal batons, which we still utilize to this day. But we also were able to augment ourselves with pepper spray. You've heard the pepper spray. You've heard all the horror stories of that. Mace. And so we were given that gave us another little level of protection. And now you're into tasers, and revolvers have evolved to more pistols where you can have higher capacity magazines. And so, we always try to make sure that we can outgun the bad guy.
So are you in favor of the SAFE Act with that New York passed with 7 rounds, not 10 in magazine?
I truly am not a fan of the SAFE Act by virtue of, I think that I think it's a bit of a warm and fuzzy pandering type law. It's not. I think it's going to lull people into a false sense of security by calling it the SAFE Act. And I think what it really does is it targets the rifles. I get it that people need to be accountable for having those assault weapons. But what we have an issue here in Albany County is with illegal handguns, and the law really doesn't do much for that. Yes, it minimizes the capacities, the magazine capacities, but all right, if a bad guy puts 7, he's still going to put 10 in if he can put 10 in. They're bad people. Bad people do bad things, and that's what I think we should have just I would have liked to seen the governor shift a few things on it. We've had a number of hours of discussions over it, but I can't sit here and truly say I'm a fan of that. I think it has some great intentions. I think it has a couple components of the law I think are noble, such as some of the mental health checks. And I'm a pistol permit holder, and I don't have a problem checking in every 5 years on my
Well,
pistol permit.
you better be a pistol permit holder, Mr. Sheriff. I
I
wouldn't
have,
think you.
and I have no problem every 5 years saying, "Hey,
You
I'm
say it
alive
like
and
we
well."
should be
and-
surprised that
Yeah.
you're a pistol.
So there are some portions of it that I think are well intended and noble, but there are some portions with it that I just strongly disagree
What
with.
about, like I saw, that there is a SWAT team, and that's the Albany County? I mean, let's see what would happen, and God forbid, but some goes up on a skyscraper and
Yeah.
starts shooting. I mean, these crazy, it does happen.
It's
There's
gonna,
these crazy cases around.
It
the United
does,
States.
and you know, and that's. I'm glad you brought that up because I was criticized recently because we were able to take a piece of military equipment and civilianize it and use it for our SWAT team, and it's called an MRAP. And if you've seen this thing, it's a big, intimidating piece of equipment.
What's a rifle? I don't know.
No, what it is, it's like an armored vehicle.
Yeah, really?
And the reason that we got it is A, it saved the county hundreds of thousands of dollars by not having to purchase one. B, it was free, all right, which is always good.
That's a good word.
So we got it, and the reason, you know, people say, well, what are you going to do with this? And I'm like, well, when? Unfortunately, we're sitting in a time where bad things happen, and people are, you know, they're irrational at times with guns and malls, and you see what happened over in Africa. I mean, people are doing things that are just crazy, and we need to be prepared. And as the sheriff, I want to make sure that my men and my women are as prepared as possible, best as possible, to defend ourselves and to help evacuate mass amount of people if we have to at a mass gathering. There's a lot that goes into it, and we plan with other departments and we practice and we train, but you need to have the equipment and the resources to get people in and out as if a mass gathering catastrophe occurs.
No, I totally agree because, I mean, maybe again, you know, when our kids are 30, 40 years ago, you wouldn't even think about these things. But you hear these stories
Yeah.
around, you know, people going to schools and,
Yeah,
I mean, the craziest things that whoever heard of such a thing. But I'm glad that you say that because, you know, every time sometimes people always say, well, when something bad happens, we'll react. Well, something bad happened already. Now what are you
Yeah.
going to do? People are dead. In the meantime, if you prevent it, then...
Is there any
prevent the
way to
worst thing.
streamline the levels of law enforcement that we have in this county or in the
Yes.
state in general? Because you got the state police, you got the sheriff, you got the village police, you got the city police. I mean, you got all these levels, and it must be turf wars. That
There
go
are
on.
turf wars. You know, it's gotten better. Let me tell you that. You've got a lot of really progressive police chiefs in the area that are sharing services. I was on the phone today with Colony's chief, and we're working out a shared service with a van and a prisoner transport van.
No, that's
I'm on
good,
the phone
but it could
routinely.
change
Yes.
in the future. So you have all
Yeah.
these, you know, I mean, you can say shared services saves money, but shouldn't there be a streamlining,
Yeah.
or maybe not? Maybe you think that it's fine this way.
Look, you could save millions of dollars by having one large agency in the county. I'm not saying it has to be the sheriff.
Right.
It could be a county police, and then keep your sheriffs off to the side doing just civil work in the jail,
Right.
you know, whatever. Yes, you could save millions of dollars. Recently, there was a proposal for a small town in the county to do it, and we went down and we gave them the proposal to how we would save this type of money. It was in excess of $500,000, but they really didn't want to touch it.
Uh-huh.
So it's up to the elected officials in that community to throw it out to their people. And you know, we were criticized a little bit for going down there, but I'm like, look, it's my job as the sheriff to go down and provide you with the information. What you choose to do with it is your business.
Sure, yeah.
But I can say that I did what I had to do, and we provided it to you. So we'll see. As you know, times are getting hard, and as I was talking to you know, the comptroller when he was leaving, with retirement and health insurance are staggering for public employees.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear what happens to public pensions. We were using, just as a rule of thumb, if you have an employee that's making $50,000 a year, his entire benefit package is close to $100,000.
Right.
So everybody thinks, well, that's not bad. He's only making 50 grand. Well, no, it's costing you as a taxpayer close to 100. Cops' pensions are, and they're good pensions, but they're costly.
You have civilians working in the sheriff's department?
Yes, sir, a lot of
like
them.
911 and...
We have 911 dispatchers, we have fire coordinators, I have EMTs, paramedics, and then of course we have our support staff, our secretarial staff, whatever.
Secretarial staff doesn't have to go through a training regimen? No, I'm just
No,
joking.
but we do have, we have a regimen of policies and procedures that everybody needs to sign off on.
Well, I was just picturing the secretaries in combat. Never mind. It's a bad image. But what's the starting salary and what's the average salary for folks in the
The
sheriff's
starting salary for a deputy sheriff is 35 and change right now, and he goes up to 41 after his first year, and then he creeps. I think they actually are in the process of signing their contract literally this week, so it'll top a deputy sheriff out in the low 60s.
Okay, so what's the average that someone earns in the sheriff's department?
Well, there's unfortunately a lot of overtime because one of the sheriff's primary duties as well is inmate transports. Once a person is arrested, it's up to that judge to release him or commit him to the custody of the sheriff. Once I get that commitment, he's mine for the duration.
Mm-hmm.
So that law enforcement agency will never have to transport him again. We have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
With all the different townships and cities in the county,
Right.
our guys are running. So there could be a lot of overtime there. So a guy that starts at 35 could feasibly make 55 his first year.
Okay.
A guy making 60 could easily make 90.
Wow. So
But they're going to work for it. It's
they're gonna,
not,
yeah, right. And they're going to take
How
time
does
away
a
from their
person
families.
become a deputy? Let's say I'm not going to be a policeman, but I'm a young guy. I'm 22
Well, you're
years
29.
old.
You
Yeah,
could still...
right. And maybe I can sign up. But in any, I'm the rabbi there at the county. That's what I think my job is. But so let's say someone's 25. Let's typical. Hey, I want to be a policeman. What would be different between, let's say, town of Bethlehem? He wants to be a state trooper. He wants a county. I mean, is there a different course?
It's a different test. They're all pretty much the same style of testing. It just has a different name on it. Mm-hmm. So the county offers a test for multiple agencies, but some agencies do their own as well. The city of Albany has one, I believe, this month,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this coming weekend, actually.
You just sign up to.
You just sign up.
You have to be within a certain age.
You have to
and
be under 35.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be under
But
35.
you get, for example, some guy city, hey, I want to be maybe a county.
You can do what's
guy,
called
you
a
know?
lateral transfer. If you get hired on the city police force, and then after a year or two decide, you know what, I'd rather go out and patrol the hill towns or something to that effect, you can do a lateral transfer, and then we can, if we have an opening, we can hire you over.
Yeah, you don't have openings now, do you?
Yeah. Actually, we have 8 in the academy right now. We're going to put 5 in January. We're pretty full.
Yeah, you
we
are,
gave
yeah.
up a lot of correction officer positions earlier in the budget process, but we're pretty well staffed right now.
So let me ask you something about the jail,
Yeah.
okay, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
We've had some people that I've known, whether they're rabbis or religious
Mm-hmm.
folks who have been in the jail, and that was under your tenure as under sheriff and sheriff.
Yes.
They seem to put the administration, I'll put it that way, through the ringer in terms of kosher food, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of kosher for Passover food. Did you have to learn about what it means to be kosher and what it
Yes.
means to be and kosher for Passover and the stringent criteria? How many hoops did you have to jump through?
We still do. We still do. Even, and it's one thing even with kosher food, but it's another when Ramadan comes up.
Yes, halal food.
I mean,
and all
yeah.
that. But let's talk
it's-
about kosher. This is the Jewish view, not the Islam view. No.
It's a huge learning curve for us because you have an administrative turnover up there periodically and
Right.
promotions and kitchen staff, whatever the case may be. So it is. I know the case you're talking about, and I think we accommodated everybody that needed to be, but it was a learning curve that we needed to address, and I think we're beyond
4
that.
cases come to mind, so I don't know, but we'll leave it at that. I won't go into names per se, but I mean, have you had to go outside and like order in from Rockland County or Orange County the
No.
food, or
No.
how do you accommodate?
Well, if we find out that there are special needs, we just simply advise our food service vendor, which we have a third-party vendor. They're not county workers that work down there. We have inmates that work in there, but it's a third-party vendor. And they make the accommodations. They order it in and they take care of it. It's all part of our contract with the vendor.
With a vendor, okay. So they might order it in from a place in Rockland County or Orange County.
It could, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
not
big
made
vendor.
local. It's not made locally here.
That I can't
No,
answer.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that I don't know.
I'm just wondering, do you just shake your head that you have to accommodate these things, or do you take it in as a
Well, you know,
is it a nuisance for you, or is it something that you prefer, that you don't mind doing?
I don't want to say it's a nuisance. All right, jail's a jail. All right. I also understand that people have religious beliefs, and we'll try our best to accommodate that. You're in jail we're not trying to demean you or beat you down. You're in jail to get, obviously it's called a correctional facility because we want to correct your behavior, get you out and lead a productive life. So if you can treat people with, you know, respect and dignity, chances are they will appreciate that and maybe get out and not reoffend, lowers recidivism rates, keeps you the heck out of our jail, gets you off programs, lead a productive life. Everybody wins, from the sheriff's office to the taxpayer to people in support services, social services, whatever. The name of the game is get you out of jail, correct the behavior, get you out of jail, lead a productive life, stay away. So we don't, you know, people think, oh my gosh, the jail. Listen, it is a big place. I'm not going to say that our food is, you know, is going to win an award. Yeah, all right, it's jail. If you don't want to eat it, stay the heck out of jail. Okay. That's what I can say, you know. But we will accommodate however we can based on religious beliefs or whatever the case may be.
You know, when I spoke to someone who wasn't Jewish and I told him about all my times I had to take off for holidays, and he said, gee, if I knew that there were these many holidays, I would have become Jewish a long time ago.
Well, it's interesting because inmates, all of a sudden, when they see what a kosher meal is or whatever, all of a sudden they become Jewish.
Well, and there was a famous court case that said you have to feed an inmate the kosher meal that they want, even if they're not brought up Jewish or, you know, I mean,
if somebody is on a tier, we have linear tiers, we have group, you know, or housing areas, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times on the linear tiers, the people get to see what others are eating. Yeah. And if a kosher meal comes on, all of a sudden I'll have 50 people requesting kosher meals. We're Jewish, you know.
And you have to. I mean, in the state prison system, there are, I think, 4,000 meals a day, but there's only kosher meals a day, but there's only maybe 150.
Just kosher meals a day.
Yeah, but there's 100 and 150 Jewish prisoners. Yeah. But because of all the others that you were just saying. Now, I got to tell you a funny story. This Rabbi Gluck, he was the rabbi for the state police, chaplain of state police. So there was he was telling me the story of how the Clinton County Correctional Facility, the sheriff there, calls him up and says, look, I got this religious Jew in my prison, in my jail, and he doesn't want to eat anything. And I'm holding up a cheese sandwich to the phone. Can you bless it, Rabbi, so he would eat it? And Rabbi Gluck says, no. It doesn't work that way. You can't bless the cheese sandwich over the phone. Go to Stewart's, get him an apple, a banana, and a pear. Give it to him. He'll be happy. He'll eat. No problem. You know, it's like, and they did that, and that was fine. But, you know, it's that learning curve on your side to know that you can't hold a cheese sandwich up to the phone.
It's a constant learning curve. It truly is. As you know, I have a couple close friends who are rabbis, and I'll speak to them, and they'll call me, and I'll ask them questions about, hey, look, I got a small situation here, and they'll feel, oh, this is what you got to do. And you know, but it's been great to get to know that whole Jewish community a lot better, because a lot pass through here through the summer times.
Yes.
The populations increase in the southern end of the county, the northern end of Greens. So it's really good to learn a lot of you know, the things that you do in your culture for your community.
I just would like to ask, I mean, just even the crime in the street. I mean, you've been around for a number of years. I mean, is it increase, decrease in Albany County, or what's the major crime that's happening? Because I am a volunteer, I go to Albany County prisons and state prisons, and drugs, they say, it's the figure they told me, 60% are drug related.
Yeah, well, this sounds like you could talk for a half hour.
Yeah, this better be a 3-hour segment. You know, let's talk about the crime in general, all right? Crime in general, I think in Albany County, I think the law enforcement agencies, our district attorney, I think we're doing a very good job at combating it. I think we're very proactive, we organize, we meet, we share data. We talked about technology from the 70s versus today. I think we're very technologically advanced in Albany County. We have a crime analysis center down on Morton Avenue. We share data every morning. We lock people up every day that without some of that technology we wouldn't have known existed. So I think crime is kind of flatlined a little bit. You have your peaks and valleys. I mean, you see it, you read a newspaper as well as I do. But I can tell you what we have right now is we have an increase in our drug activity, and it's this darn heroin coming out of New York City, and we need to fight it. We need to fight it hard. And to say that you had the slogan in the 80s, the war on drugs. Well, the war we kind of won it for a while, and I think we got used to it. Mm-hmm. But you got to always defend it. And we're fighting it, and we're defending it daily. I mean, we're losing kids daily on heroin overdoses. And I say kids, but you know what? There's adults as well.
Sure.
We had a 28-year-old from River City. We have a 21-year-old from Queens.
But you have 40-year-olds too, 50-year-olds, people who should know better.
People used to think heroin was an older white male, the junkie. Shooting a syringe in his arm, and well, that's back when heroin was weak and it wasn't that popular. You had to put it in a needle in order to mainstream it. Mm-hmm. Now heroin is more potent, it's more prevalent, and it's cheap as anything. You're buying heroin is dropped in price. It's down to about $7 to $10 a bag. So you're getting a bundle for $100, which is 10 bags, as opposed to $250 a couple of years back.
And what does heroin affect? How does heroin affect the body?
Heroin's an opiate.
Does it speed you up? Does it get you down?
Brings you
crashes
down.
You?
Yeah, it crashes you out. It's a horrible, horrible drug. It's any opiate's super addictive.
Is it oral or is it nose?
Well, now what they're doing is because it's so strong, you don't need to mainstream it anymore. Now what you can do is you can snort it, and it's so potent, it's right in you quick. And that's what they're doing, is they're smoking it. You still got your people using needles.
So they don't
as well.
get hopped up and hallucinating and all that. They just crash and
They crash, but it's an addictive drug. And when you have an addictive drug, you need it constantly. And what do you need to get that drug constantly? You need money. So now where do you get your money? Where you go now is when you start doing burglaries. You start scamming elderly. You start taking advantage of people, robbing from your family, selling everything you've got, stealing, lying, cheating, you name it. And that's what your addict turns into. So what we're trying to do in Albany County is hit the drug problem hard. And look, we could fill the jail. I could fill all 1,043 beds with heroin addicts, but that's not what we need to do. We need to get them off the darn drug, which will lower crime and get these people back off of programs and into the workforce.
Well, you know what? It's interesting you mention this, because people who I know, unfortunately know, who've spent time in the jail, say that there are people who are in jail who are plotting their next crime while in prison to use and sell drugs again, to obtain a gun after prison. So they're looking to see where their next crime is. So I don't want to say there's a high recidivism rate, but you can, when you do a lineup, you might do the usual suspects because you might know.
Listen, there is a high recidivism rate in Albany County. I get criticized for that too, but look, the people deserve to hear the truth. We have to attack the drug problem. It's not a matter of just locking people up and throwing them in jail, because they're going to do their 6 months in, 6 months out, and they're going to go out and they're going to sell drugs and everything, and it's recidivism. Just you got to break the cycle. I've had grandfathers, fathers, and sons in that jail at the same time. That's sad, and chances are, where do you think the next kid's going if we don't do something? He's going to be right there with his great-grandfather and grandfather. So we've got to change it. And I think that we're trying diligently. It takes funds, and that's some of the issues that I have with certain laws that get passed and take funds that are necessary to fight other issues.
Quick question: legalizing the personal use of marijuana. Is that a gateway drug where you say no, it should never be legalized, or?
Look, I understand the decriminalization. Things need to be controlled, and I'm not a fan of just legalizing marijuana, because it is, in fact, a gateway drug, and people are going to debate that till the cows come home. But look, when you're on the street for 25 years, you see this. It starts here, it ends there at the county jail.
So the marijuana should not be...
I don't think it should be legalized.
Medical marijuana?
I have no problem with medical marijuana.
Okay. Anything
that's going to help somebody get healthy, I support wholeheartedly.
Okay.
But again, there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just signing a law.
Leaving it on a happy note, you have food pantry program, or this Hilltown's Christmas program?
You just threw me under the bus. Yes, we do.
Well, we have programs of, we have food pantry. Rabbi Simon's son has a Bethlehem food pantry thing, kosher food. Hanukkah is coming up. Is there anything that can be done for the poor in the Jewish community that the sheriff could also do with the...
Well, I'll tell you, we are always willing to help anybody. I'm actually starting to advertise our Hilltown Christmas, which will kick off. We had a 5K 2 weeks ago, very productive, 87 runners. raise that money. We'll go out and we'll buy toys. We'll feed roughly 250 kids and give them bags and bags of toys. I should say Santa will, right? And we'll take care of them. Anything that, whether it's Jewish community or any community
We
that
have
we can
Hanukkah
help.
Harry.
Yeah, Hanukkah Harry.
So Hanukkah Harry could certainly.
So we are always
we could start a program for that.
We're always willing to help out with anybody.
Okay.
We deal with a lot of families, and we've kind of grown from just the hill towns to Albany County and actually adjoining counties.
Maybe we
because
could do
it's-
something.
Yeah,
That would be
so
nice.
I'd love to help out, or maybe you
Okay.
can help us out.
Okay, good deal.
Very much. Listen, we're out of time, and like you say, really, we could be talking for hours about crime and punishment, even Torah sense and the Jewish sense. But you're doing a good job, as far as I'm concerned. And
Me too.
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned. No, you're very
No.
responsive and you're very open, and I haven't seen, I've known 3 sheriffs, and you are the most open and honest and most open and forthright in terms of what you're trying to do, and I really compliment you. I really have
Thank you.
to say
We
that.
appreciate that. We work hard.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.